Welcome to My Long Island TV. From Manhasset to Montauk, we have traveled our communities to bring you the following events. I'm your host, Waldo Cabrera. My Long Island TV starts now.
Experimental off of 15 is departing to the southwest.
A year after Superstorm Sandy ripped through Long Island, I'm taking to the skies with Robert Haymack to see a controversial scar that the storm left on our landscape.
At 1:30 to 2 o'clock is the breach. This is the one that's being debated. That's Bellport. 1-5 on traffic, thank you. There had been a shack. You can see the pier that remains there in the water, the piles. 10 miles to the south. It was a private hunting club shack.
The National Park Service and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the state of New York have had in place for about 20 years a breach contingency plan that said if there was a breach in this stretch of the South Shore of Long Island that we would close the breach except for the area in the wilderness, which is the area where the current breach now exists. Yeah, there are options, basically two. You let nature close it, or we close it, or we leave it. Actually, there are three options. The third is it could be left open to do its own thing. But there are some people that argue we should make a new inlet that is a stabilized inlet that would allow boats to go through. Well, that will not happen because this is federal wilderness where the breach occurs. It's a designation that basically says we let nature take its course.
We started deploying instrumentation around the borders of Great South Bay, about 2004. And that's the basis by which we could make an assessment of what impact the inlet had on the Great South Bay. We started out taking aerial photographs right away. And then in March, we developed a scheme by which we could use a video camera mounted on the airplane looking down, which allowed us to produce some photo mosaics. Well, certainly the tide levels in the bay have not changed appreciably. Bellport, its tides advanced by 20 minutes. That's out of a 12-hour tidal cycle, so it wasn't a big deal. There was a number of substantial nor'easters that happened throughout this past winter, and those caused significant flooding. And so the inlet was initially blamed for that extra flooding. But we've shown that that flooding was a result of the entire mid-Atlantic bight from Cape Cod to Chesapeake rising up and down. Inlets in barrier islands, at least the one in Long Island, they start more or less right across the barrier island, and then they move to the west and they rotate clockwise. Eventually they'll get longer and skinnier and no longer able to scour out and maintain themselves, at which point they begin to close, and then they'll close. If nobody gets in the way, this will do the same thing. There was an inlet there between 1760 and 1825-ish. This inlet is vastly smaller. I have no idea how long it's going to last.
At the 1992 nor'easter that we had, another breach opened up, and it was small. The first couple days they could have filled it in for a couple tens of thousands of dollars, and by the time they closed it ultimately, months later, it cost millions, and I don't want to see that happen again. The DEC is responsible for requiring or demanding that that breach be filled, and they've told the federal agency, the Army Corps of Engineers, to prepare to close the breach. They haven't said close it, they've said prepare to close it, which is a big difference. I'm trying to get them to go the next step to say, start closing the breach.
It's right straight across the bay. It's about 1.5 miles from here, and it has been a very positive experience for the residents of Bellport. Well, the main concern was would the breach affect the coastline here in Bellport Village? And to this point, it has not. The positive about the breach is the bay is a lot cleaner. They can see the bottom of the bay. The fishing has never been better. The crabbing has never been better. I think nature should do the job that nature's going to do. And if nature closes it, then it should be closed.
This was talked about years before the breach. We needed to flush out this bay out, and we interrupted nature for too long. I think the breach has really flushed out this bay on the boat. The water is cleaner.
I'm not saying it's good or bad, it's just a lot of people are saying that we're going to get all of these great benefits. The jury is still out on that. It's a bigger issue than to just close it, open it, flooding, not flooding, lots of conversations. So there's no easy definitive answer, unfortunately, which lots of people would like us to, say one way or the other, but we're not there yet.